Midweek update time, and we are tightening our NFL DFS pool based on the latest projections, matchup shifts, and news flow. Plus, what we learned from yesterday's video. Quarterback first, we are pivoting our core from Drake May to Joe Burrow at 6,500 against the Cardinals, who have one of the worst defenses overall with an opponent rank of 25. Here is why we are making the change. Burrow carries a dash rank of 100 with a solid 21-point projection and 17 fantasy points per game. But the ceiling signal is stronger right now with recent scores of 32, 8, and 25. The matchup is friendlier than May's in terms of defensive efficiency, and the Bengals' pass game just showed renewed life while Burrow crossed 2,000. Career passing yards, as noted mid-game by team channels and covered by Essentially Sports, a reminder of the long-term production profile. Another article questioning how long he will wait for Cincinnati to turn it around captures the urgency narrative we like for DFS tournaments. We expect him to be overlooked relative to other names, which gives us leverage at this salary. Our salary saver at quarterback also changes, from Geno Smith to Cameron Ward at 4,500 against the Saints, who have a middle-of-the-pack. Defense overall with an opponent rank of 11. Ward brings a dash rank of 100, a 14-point projection, and a steady trend at 18, 15, and 12 across his last three, with 12 fantasy points per game on the season. The projection is less bankable, given the small sample, but the price plus recent competence and the no one-pick profile are enough for large field builds. Media chatter around his Madden rating and the Jackson Dart versus Cam Ward debate keeps him in the conversation, without driving heavy ownership. Running back, no change to our RB1. We are staying on Chase Brown at 7,400 against the Cardinals, who have one of the worst defenses overall with an opponent rank of 25. This is the same play as yesterday for the same reasons, just reinforced by form. Dash rank 100, a 19-point projection, 16 fantasy points per game, and a recent run of 33, 16, and 19-point outings. The News Pulse backs the ceiling case too, with pieces noting his push for 100-yard milestones, and even a skeptical ranking from Maurice Jones-Drew that can suppress the field while the data stays bullish. He is still our preferred spend because the matchup and usage trajectory align. Our value running back remains Sean Tucker at 4,200 versus the Dolphins, who have one of the worst defenses overall with an opponent rank of 21. Projection sits at 4 with 6 fantasy points per game and recent outputs of 6, 7, and 9. This is volatility we are willing to buy at the price, and the fantasy features that highlighted surprise 30-plus point spike weeks for backs like Tucker remind us why we keep this in the pool for tournament flexibility wide receiver. We are moving off Chris Olave to Brian Thomas Jr. at 5,200 against the Colts, who have one of the worst defenses overall with an opponent rank of 22. Here is the why Thomas carries a dash rank of 100 with an 11-point projection and 10 fantasy points per game. And the recent line of 4, 17, and 12 shows both volatility and a clear path to ceiling. At this price, Jacksonville's revamped receiver room has been getting positive grades, with PFF ranking them inside the top 16 heading into 2025, and reports calling Thomas an emerging star, while trade deadline chatter around him and a heating market suggests the team continues to feature him. This gives us salary relief without sacrificing upside in a soft overall matchup. As a punt wide receiver, Cedric Tillman at 3,100 versus the Steelers, who have one of the worst defenses overall with an opponent rank of 24, stays in our value pool if you need the savings. Dash rank 57, a projection of 4, 5 fantasy points per game, and recent scores of 2, 0, and 3 make this a thin play, but it correlates with our Cleveland tight end stance and benefits if targets consolidate. Reports out of Cleveland have been optimistic about his 2025 rise, which is exactly the kind of under-the-radar profile we use to unlock premium stacks. Tight end is where we make our biggest adjustment. We are moving from the premium spend to Harold Fannin Jr. at $5,000 versus the Steelers, who have one of the worst defenses overall with an opponent rank of 24-rank 100, a 12-point projection, 12 fantasy points per game, and a strong recent trend of 20, 12, and 28 are doing the heavy lifting. The news is supportive too, with draft coverage and camp notes saying he is going to be a good one and could bring fireworks to the position. This also dovetails with David Njoku's questionable tag, which can funnel routes and red zone work to Fannin if Njoku is limited or sits. If you need a cheaper leverage pivot at tight end and Njoku is active, David Njoku at 3,000 versus the Steelers, who have one of the worst defenses overall with an opponent rank of 24, is viable as a game theory flip. Dash rank 56 with a 3-point projection and 7 fantasy points per game, but the zeros the last 2 weeks will keep the field away. Reports about Cleveland's rookie quarterback jumping over 300 yards and the discussion around a short-staffed offense earlier this season both point to volatile usage, which is the profile we target at this price. For the flex, we are swapping Ashton Jeanty for Juwan Johnson at 4,200 against the Titans, who have one of the worst defenses overall with an opponent rank of 26. Johnson brings a dash rank of 100, a 12-point projection, 11 fantasy points per game, and recent scores of 17, 7, and 8. The Saints have reshaped the offense under Kellen Moore, with off-season reports highlighting a blank slate build and additional signings that included Johnson and rumor pieces tying him to the new vision. That narrative plus a soft, overall defense keeps him in our core. Mix as a salary-efficient ceiling play. If you are stacking Bengals, Drew Sample at 2,500 against the Cardinals, who have one of the worst defenses overall with an opponent rank of 25, is our punt flex or TE2-rank 42 with a 2-point projection, 2 fantasy points per game, and recent scores of 5, 3, and 0. He is a thin piece, but he correlates with Burrow at minimum salary and can get there on a single red zone target. Defense, we are replacing the Patriots with the Seahawks at 3,700 against the Panthers, who have one of the worst defenses overall with an opponent rank of 22. The projection is 7, and the game environment favors a pressure script where Seattle can play with a lead and force mistakes. If you need salary relief, the Panthers at 2,100 versus the Seahawks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall with an opponent rank of 12, remain a viable punt with a 5-point projection and recent defensive outputs of 5, 6, and 13 creating a reasonable floor for the price. Quick recap of what changed and why we pivoted our core quarterback to Joe Burrow. For a softer overall opponent, a higher median projection, and verified ceiling backed by recent news on career milestones and urgency narratives, we kept Chase Brown as our primary RB because the soft overall matchup and recent explosion remain intact. We shifted from Chris Olave to Brian Thomas Jr. to capture salary relief and leverage within a soft overall defense, backed by positive receiver room evaluations and trade buzz. We moved tight end exposure to Harold Fannin Jr., leveraging his ascending role and Njoku's questionable status in another soft overall matchup. We changed our flex to Juwan Johnson to ride the Saints' offensive redesign in a soft overall matchup, and we upgraded defense to the Seahawks for a cleaner pressure script. Drop your favorite low-owned play in the comments, and let's finalize builds for the weekend slate.